I think the order of the news, there were rumors that Stripe was working on a new L1 along with Paradigm. Then after that, Circle formally announced a new L1 of their own called ARC. Then I think it was reported more formally that Paradigm is working with Stripe on an L1 called Tempo. So 2 new layer 1 blockchains being announced and worked on. So I heard a lot of reaction, especially from Bitcoin community, like, my God, why do we need more layer 1s? Isn't this 2025? Didn't we learn lessons like forever ago? But I actually, my reaction, number one, generally makes sense to me. And I'll try to explain why briefly. But two, I generally think it's like pretty positive news. In like my general view, I think Bitcoin is just so different from everything else and sets itself apart, that the other projects and tokens and chains, they all compete with each other. So it's kind of the more the merrier. Kind of like the introduction of Solana put a lot of pressure on Ethereum and stole away a lot of application development and applications and energy and momentum from Ethereum. Right. And I think these other layer ones kind of do similar things. Like we saw this in the past. CryptoKitties initially launched on Ethereum, and then that company came out with NBA Top Shot, NFTs for NBA games and players and stuff, and they didn't do it on top of Ethereum. They created their own L1 blockchain called Flow.
Yeah.
So that was a company that decided, well, we don't need we don't need Ethereum. We don't need what it provides, and we don't need its cost. We're going to optimize for our application this L1. And I think it's a similar mindset from Stripe and Circle. Obviously, what I'm about to say is all speculation. It's just my read on the situation. But I suspect Stripe's clearly getting into stablecoins in a huge way. They bought Bridge for $1 billion. They bought Privy, which is like a wallet as a service company. So they're making big moves there. And it's pretty clear that they see the future of their payments business transitioning to stablecoins. That seems kind of obvious to anyone paying attention. So I suspect they don't want to be beholden to Coinbase and Base, or they don't want to be beholden to Tether, or whoever the leaders right now, or Circle or whatever. If you look at who are the leaders in stablecoins, like those three companies, well, they don't want to be beholden to them. So Stripe has tons of market power because they have a huge business, a huge network. They can just like upgrade their network to use stablecoins on their layer 1, right? So I think it makes tremendous sense. And they can also optimize their layer 1 specifically for stablecoins and for their use cases. So I think that's...
I have one huge clarification question. Are they launching a stablecoin as well as the L1, or just the L1, or do we know?
We don't know. But
because those to me are two very, very different things. So, I mean, high level, my take on it is this. I think you're going to see a lot of people coming out with their own stablecoins. I question, if there's a lot of value in that. We'll see. But like the L1 thing, the thing that just bugs me with this, I hear you. If you have that much marketing power or market power, you can like create kind of kingmaker yourself, fine. But like you also could do this whenever if you just, I don't know, create your own private MySQL database. Whenever you're like, we can customize it for a use case. It's just like, there's no nodes, it's us. Or if there are nodes, it's. I think what frustrates me is even calling all these L1s. It's always been decentralization theater. And it's like to get around like very light regulation, or to kind of be like, well, we're not really the company controlling it, but it's always the company controlling it. And so I guess to me, it's just frustrating. It's like, if you're going to launch your own payment rail to compete with, I don't know, Visas and MasterCards of the world, and you're coming for them, great, go for it. But like, must we continue to have this kind of like tongue in cheek wink at the regulators? It's decentralized. Like, I don't know. That's my frustration.
Well, one thing I don't know too is like, what is the token going to be for this layer 1? I think at least one of them reported that the fee for stablecoins is going to be in the same token as maybe it's ARC from Circle. The fees for their layer one will be in USDC. That would actually make sense. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's probably the case. And I think with Tempo, I don't think it's been announced what the token will be. So it'll be very curious to see, is it a new token? How is it issued? Is there like a huge pre-mine that Paradigm gets and Stripe gets? My guess is yes. It'll be really interesting to see that, that gives Paradigm tremendous financial interest in this. Also having, I've spoken to Patrick Collison before, long time ago, before I worked at Block, to see if Stripe would be interested in creating a Bitcoin initiative, because that would have been something I would have been interested in working on. And he told me that he was interested in finding the next Stellar, because Stellar Lumens, Stripe made a very large investment in that, and it turned out
I
to
remember.
make them a lot of money.
Yeah.
So he was interested in the next Stellar Lumens, and that's when I have great respect for him as an entrepreneur and what he's done with Stripe, but I didn't have a lot of respect for his views on Bitcoin, at least. And I knew that wasn't like the right opportunity for me. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do around the token and how much of they view that as like a business opportunity versus just like trying to create something efficient. And then that might, the more they think it's a financial opportunity, the more it answers why it's not just a database, right?
Yeah. So I mean, either way, it's like sketchy to me, to be very frank. Like if they're trying to create their own rail to somehow compete with Visa and MasterCard and all that, then it's like, I mean, okay, maybe you could do that because you have enough, merchants on board. But again, this is the whole problem Bitcoin tries to solve is what you just said. Protocols. Protocols are hard to get
Right.
network effects around.
But I don't
If
think.
it's literally,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
no, but if it's also what you're saying, they're just gonna, pump and dump retail again. I don't know, man. Like I've just lost a lot of respect for Stripe over the
What
years.
if we were
Yeah.
to flip it though? I'm just curious, like, because this has been sort of a question in my mind for a long time. Is we recognize that stable coins have product market fit and people want to use them, and we don't believe that any of the underlying kind of L1 infrastructure is really worthwhile or really decentralized or any of that. And so, a question I would have is, if you were, let's say, you were Patrick Collison, or you did have sort of the belief set around kind of how Bitcoin, the specialness of Bitcoin and sort of the unspecialness of the L1s and the non-decentralization of it. Like, do you have a good proposal for how you would say transition Stripe's business to a some sort of a stable coin rail that has like competes with Visa but doesn't necessarily try to launch a new L1 and sort of just go for that kind of cash grab?
You could adopt USDC on Base and partner with Coinbase. You could partner with Lightning Labs or
Taproot Assets or Spark.
Lightspark. Each of those companies have new platforms, Taproot Assets and Spark, in which you can issue stable coins. And so I don't know what the future holds for either. Well, I guess it's been announced that Tether's working on Tether on Taproot Assets. Whether Tether's going to, if it's going to work on Spark or if USDC is.
I think they announced
don't
just
know.
yesterday or the day before with Spark. I'll have to look that up.
I don't think so. They announced the wallet development kit.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't think they announced an issuance. But anyway,
yeah.
Put simply, there are many options that Stripe could do, but I think it's very reasonable for Stripe not to choose any of those and build their own L1 because it gives them more control. It gives them more control over customer experience, and it gives them more control over business models and financials. Even if let's just set aside whether they're going to have a token and try to profit off that. Let's just assume they're not. Then what I just said holds true. I think it makes perfect business sense. They don't care about Bitcoin and decentralization and freedom money. That's not their. Sure. I'm speculating, but I've seen no evidence they care about any of that.
Right.
So and what they don't need to. I mean, like, it's not, their shareholders aren't demanding that they do that. So
the question I come back to then, though, even for them and Coinbase with Base, is like, okay, that's cool. I get it. You only want to maximize profits for your customers. Fine. Why do you need one of these quote unquote L1s or a blockchain or whatever it is? Like, why not just, because it's regulatory arbitrage or regulatory theater?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought I just answered it. It gives them more control over customer experience. It gives them more control over business models and like the financial future. Like,
but that's not my point. The difference between that and just saying, hey guys, like Stripe has a private database. It's completely ours. We're running it.
Okay.
Like it's an
you just
L1.
answered. Okay. Regulatory arbitrage.
But are the regulators
also,
that dumb?
And also,
like,
they also.
I'm serious. Like, are they that dumb?
Well, no. But also, we don't know what their strategy is, but they probably will want adoption of their new layer one beyond themselves.
Right.
Because A, it helps strengthen the regulatory angle, but B, it just grows their power. Like, if everyone, just like Coinbase wants Base, wants Base, everyone to use Base. Lightspark wants everyone to use Spark. Lightning Labs wants everyone to use Chapter. Everyone has their like platform. Everyone wants to grow their platform.
Of course.
So Stripe's just entering the platform race, right? And they have a massive set of assets, and it's still early days. So it makes total sense to me that they're doing this. And then with Circle, they introduced ARC. It might be for very different reasons because they have a very different business. They issue a stablecoin. They're the number 2 position. I'm sure they have their, a strategy to become number 1 and become dominant. And looks like they've concluded that creating a layer 1 blockchain that is optimized for USDC is part of that strategy. And just speaking with some folks on what they speculate this could be is like, from Circle's viewpoint, they might be challenging like FedNow or other types of like real-time traditional TradFi settlement systems with ARC. So I know, lots of unknowns around both these, but again, like I guess to me it seems kind of obvious why both companies are doing this. I don't find it outlandish at all. I think it makes good business sense.
I totally understand why they're doing it. I wish we could stop with the theater, but I get your point. Maybe they'll get adoption and somehow, it will become decentralized.
Why do you say so? A lot of cryptocurrency projects, I would agree, like theater, but like I absolutely could imagine 10 years from now, Tempo being like heavily used, like trillions of dollars on either ARC or Tempo, trillions of dollars on either of those. I could totally imagine.
I can totally imagine that too. So, and 2 things there. One, the question that I would have is like, who's actually running the nodes, or like who are the actual participants in?
Who cares?
That's my point. Like, then let's call it what it is. Like, hey guys, I'm Stripe. I'm the biggest mafia in town. Use my MySQL database and pay my fee, or you're completely shut out of the economy. Like, it's fine. It's cool. Like, it's in their rights to do it. It's not a blockchain or decentralized.
Isn't that how Visa works?
Well, Visa is owned.
So again, I feel like this conversation is like framed as like competing with Bitcoin in some neutral system, and I don't think that's their goal. They're not trying to do that.
Agreed.
They're trying to like become Visa.
I think Max is pointing out that they are that Visa is not claiming to be decentralized. They're not claiming to need an L1 for their business.
Exactly.
They actually just run their business on a SQL database. Right?
Can you point me to where they claim decentralization is?
They say a new L1 blockchain. So far, that has meant blockchain is decentralized versus I run my own database. If they change the terminology, which is kind of what's steadily happened over time. Well, I mean, would you agree that there's any difference between a blockchain with one person running it and just a database?
We have a comment saying "Rest in peace, my hard stop," and that is correct.
Yeah.
But all right, well, we've got more to talk about.
I just think it's semantics.
There's this. I don't understand this implication that like first of all, we know that there's a wide range of actual decentralization between blockchains, but I also didn't know that blockchain. We also know that
What's the point of a blockchain?
Dino.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. This has been my point
We
all along.
we know Dino is a thing, right? Decentralized name only.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, anyways, the point, the only point to me of a blockchain was decentralization. If you don't have it, I think it's theater. I think it's great to get around regulation, but it's just frustrating. That's all I'm saying. It's smart from their end. They're probably going to have a lot of usage. And even if they do, then there's another opportunity, which is who's going to market make between their chain and Bitcoin, which is the internet. Hopefully, the internet ends up winning fast enough that they're forced to join forces with us. That's what I hope happens.
Well, they bought Bridge, right? So Bridge will bridge between all these different tokens and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but not Bitcoin yet. Still, critically. One day.
Okay.
One day.
We will resurrect